Hey Canucks fans, today I chat with Utica Comets expert Cory Hergott. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Friday, June the 12th. This is where you get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. And before I get to my chat with Cory, I want to quickly address a vlog that I did on Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I did a vlog, not sure why I made that sound. Wednesday night, I recorded a vlog saying that Las Vegas has been confirmed as one of the 2 NHL hub cities for when the NHL returns, hopefully later this summer. Now, it wasn't confirmed by the league or any major sources on Thursday, but I'm still sticking to my story. And it's kind of funny because I heard from a friend on Twitter, a friend on Facebook, who has a friend who works for the Vegas Golden Knights. And basically, that was the big rumor going around the club on Wednesday. And then I saw some other stuff on Twitter from a couple other writers. Rob Fay from TSN 1040 also tweeted about it. But no one has really confirmed the story, which kind of makes sense because they probably don't want it to come out until they announce both hub cities at the same time. So I get that. Although admittedly, there's a small part of me that's scared that it's not true. And I kind of did what I kind of make fun of what other people do sometimes, and they speculate or they do clickbait. Although I wasn't intending to do clickbait, I actually went from 3 or 4 independent sources, 3 or 4 different sources that I saw or heard that are saying that Las Vegas is one of the 2 hub cities. So I'm sticking to that. I can take the video down if I need to, but yeah, just remember, I am a vlogger. I'm not a reporter, but I heard it on pretty good authority, and I still believe it to be the case. And even if so, it wouldn't be a surprise. I think Las Vegas has always been a favorite to be one of the 2 hub cities. So there's just a small disclaimer there, but I'm certainly not backing down from my vlog or my story, but we will see what happens. Okay, today, something I am sure of is how awesome of a guy Cory Hergott is. Many of you know him as Comets Cory. He followed the Utica Comets religiously, to use that word, or very faithfully for 3 seasons. And he was writing for Canucks Army, he was writing for Canucks.com, he was on Canucks Conversation podcast with Quadrali and Faber. So he was getting a lot of content out and doing some really great content about the Utica Comets. But after 3 years, he decided it was a time for a break, focus on family, he's got a new grandson. We're almost the same age, so it's amazing he's got a grandson already. I hope my kids don't get any ideas. But focus on family, focus on hobbies like music and so on and so forth. So we had a really good chat. Not only did I affirm him for making that tough decision to walk away. As a content creator, you always want to be creating content, something that you're passionate about, but you got to take care of other parts of your life as well. So I affirm Cory for that. And then we talk about what he's been up to for the past little bit. So that's for the first 5 or 10 minutes. And then we get into some solid Utica Comets talk. And I really appreciate his expertise in watching every game for the past 3 seasons, over 200 games. And he had a lot of really cool things to say about what happens down there and about his experiences with the Zach McEwen family, for instance, and seeing McEwen rise up and get called up by the Canucks. We talk about the Black Aces, which Utica Comets should fill out the Vancouver Canucks roster as the Canucks, prepare for their qualifying series against the Minnesota Wild. And we get into specific players like Ole Juolevi, like Michael DiPietro, like Cole Lind, and like Brogan Rafferty, and like Justin Bailey, to name a few. So I think you'll really enjoy this vlog. Cory is a well-spoken guy, and he's got some really, really good answers and a level of depth in his answers that we wouldn't get really from anyone else covering the Utica Comets. So enjoy this chat with Cory Hergott. I will catch up with you on the other side. Hey everyone, I am back with my Zoom chat series, and I'm thrilled to welcome this guest. I call him the most well-known non-Canucks guy in the Canucks nation because he was doing such great work covering the Utica Comets, giving all us Canucks fans the scoop of what was happening there, although doing it from his lovely home on the Sunshine Coast. So please welcome Mr. Cory Hergott. Cory, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me on, Clay. It's I've done a little bit of stuff on the radio and a few podcasts, but I haven't done any video stuff here before. So this is new for me. Everybody's going to see my mug now.
Oh, it's natural. GLCPC, man. Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club. Yes, no, definitely a lot. I've heard you do hits on both radio stations. I've heard you, on podcasts and everything. So quickly, maybe if for those that anyone who doesn't know you, maybe your last couple gigs that you were doing with respect to Utica, and then basically the decision you made a couple weeks ago. I'm very interested to hear about that.
Well, for the last 3 years, I've been covering the Utica Comets for Canucks Army. In the last, just this past season, I was also doing monthly recaps for Canucks.com for the team's website, which was a lot of fun and a great experience. And most recently, I've been working with Chris Faber on the Canucks Convo podcast. I've been doing that for all of this season and working with him and David Quadrelli, and that's kind of, and doing a little bit of writing for them on their Patreon platform as well. And yeah, just in the last little bit here, I've kind of decided it's time for me to take a break from this for at least for a little while, and kind of focus on a few other things in life, and just I mentioned this on the with the guys yesterday on the PP1 podcast, but it's a lot of time goes into doing this kind of stuff. I'm not one to kind of do things halfway. I have to be all in for stuff to work for me, and it's been 3 years of living and breathing the Utica Comets, and it's just time to at least step back for a little bit at least.
And I will say, I know I can speak on behalf of many Canucks fans. We appreciate all the grind, man, the hard work, and all the little stories and nuances and character development that you helped provide for us Canucks fans. Guys that maybe got a cup of tea up here or we're down there, or guys that we hope to see up here. And I did want to acknowledge that was great that you're on the PP1 podcast. That was a really good, I listened to the whole thing, and I'll link to it down below as well, because I thought that was a really, really fascinating chat. And I'll warn you, Cory, there might be a bit of overlap between that and this, but we got video this time so we can see.
Yeah, that's okay.
So that's awesome. So, someone will say, wow, you're writing for Canucks.com, you're in Canucks Army, you're a Canucks Conversation podcast. Was there a tipping point, or was there a moment where you said, hey, as much as fun this is, I kind of need a break? Was there actually one incident or one thought that you had that led to that decision?
It kind of really started for me, when the Comets season got shut down, and it was I was very quickly laid off from Canucks Army. And I know this might sound funny to some people out there, but that's a job that I basically made up. I went there with my idea, and they ended up giving me a job and a fantastic opportunity and a great platform to work from. But when I got laid off immediately, it kind of hit me hard. It staggered me a little bit. I in my head, I was thinking, I've done like over 200 consecutive games without missing a game at that point. I've covered every Comets game for Canucks Army for the last 3 years, and I've treated it like a full-time job. I've spent my own money to cover training camps and development camps, and
full-time job without full-time pay, right? That's how it goes.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this isn't anything to do that bloggers don't get paid enough money or anything like that. This has never been about the money for me. It's been about the experiences, and I've talked about them so many times, but I've had so many fantastic experiences, since doing this job. But at some point, it gets hard to justify, I got to keep doing this for the experiences, right? I start to feel a little bit selfish because, I've every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for the last 3 years have absolutely been Utica Comets days for me. I get up in the morning and I start writing my pregame, and then I get that put out, and then I start getting into my postgame report midday, and I put my article out, by 9 or 10 o'clock at night after the game. The game starts at 4 our time. So it's a full day and then some for me when I do these things. And I know I get wordy. I'm a 4,000 words kind of a post-game kind of a guy. And that might not be for everybody, but I wrote the way that I speak. I wrote what I believed. I believed what I wrote. That's just the way that I did things. And it just got to the point now where I can't really, the experiences are great, but I can't commit as much time as I have. I've missed a lot of family dinners and things like that so that I could watch a Comets game and then write a post game report. So, it's time to, look a little bit towards some family stuff and just some other, other opportunities and other hobbies and different avenues to go down. At least for now. I mean, who knows what happens in the future, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Cory. And we'll jump back to the comments in a few minutes. But as a fellow content creator, I know the grind. You do it because we're not trying to make a living out of it. We do it because we love doing it. We love the experience. We love sharing our passion, and it's a nice creative outlet. But it's got to make sense too when it comes in terms of in terms of the big picture. So one of the hobbies I saw that, and I wanted to again thank you for that 3 years of really, really, excellent content. And I know that you're my first source for Utica Comets stuff, and I know I'm not alone in that way. So, but we'll get to your comics experience and your expertise in a couple minutes. One of the hobbies I've seen, I know you guys talked about this on the PP1 podcast as well, as a fellow musician as well, and a fellow good-looking mid-40s guy, we have a lot in common. You're doing some stuff with guitar. Like, are you a guitarist, and are you building racks, and what are you doing with all this beautiful guitar work I see?
Well, see, okay, so I've never been much of a player. Okay, I played a little bit of bass in high school, and then life moved on, and the bass got put away, and eventually got sold, and then my wife and I started young. We started having kids early, and so guitars were kind of put aside for a couple of decades, sort of a thing. So that was one of the things when Canucks Army kind of wound down for me there, I needed to quickly find another outlet, something else to focus on. I generally do a lot better mentally if I've got something to focus on. So I decided I'm going to try to get back into music and playing around with some guitars, and I acquired a pretty nice little electric guitar and an amplifier that a friend gave me, and that one guitar quickly turned into another. My nephew Brandon had a really cheap electric guitar for sale that I thought that would make a good project. I can teach myself how to swap pickups and do some soldering and that sort of a thing. And so I picked that up off him for like $75, and the first thing that came to my mind with that guitar is, being a Comets guy, I wanted to make a Comets guitar. So I've got a friend, Jason Silverthorne, who has a sign shop in Roberts Creek, and I messaged him and asked him if he'd ever done, like I'd seen him do signs and doing vehicle wraps with signage, and asked him if he'd ever wrapped a guitar, and he quickly sent me back a photo of his Telecaster and his Stratocaster that he had wrapped, and they looked fantastic. So I said, hey, I have this idea. I want to do like a Comets logo that looks all weathered and worn, like it's been on the side of a barn for a couple of years, right? And a few hours later, he sent me a photo. He goes, "You mean like this?" So I took my guitar apart, whipped it down to his shop, and he did the wrap for me, and we just kind of got talking a little bit, and he had seen the guitar rack that I had built for myself, and I figured, if I'm not gonna expect him to do this wrap for me for free, so I said, I'll build you a rack. And he had a bunch of cedar trees cut down on his property, so he had a bunch of cedar 1x6 already milled. So I grabbed a handful of boards from his place, and I built a rack for him to hold, I think it was 5 guitars and a ukulele and his amplifier. And it's just kind of taken off from there. I think I've built 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them now. And I've got a really big one that I'm working on right now for a fella. We're just doing the brainstorming on it. It's going to have a 2x12 cabinet and an amp head. Like it's going to be a pretty big, beefy one. So they're fun projects. Everyone is unique. Everyone is a different build, because I build them specifically for the musicians. So they've been a lot of fun.
That's really cool, man. As a musician, I like that. I'm not sure there's anything such as piano racks though, so I won't ask you to. But maybe we can collab one day. How about a Cory and Clay Canucks Comets collab, like 5 C's all on that title there? I think we could do something cool.
I'll have to learn how to play my instrument a little bit better before I'm going to be making music videos with you, pal. But you never know down the road.
All right. Okay. You heard it here first. That's awesome. Hey, Cory, what's the one thing you're going to miss about covering the Comets?
Oh, man. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm going to miss being able to interact with the players and interact with the coaching staff and the management. I'll still be interacting with a lot of the people that I'm calling kind of my Utica family. Guys like Rain and Scoop who've had me on the radio there a whole bunch. Matt Page, who's their producer. Joe Roberts, the play-by-play guy for the Comets. Phil Levanco, their kind of creative media guy. These guys have really, really helped me out a ton, and I'll still be interacting with them, but I'll miss being able to, show up at training camp and interviewing players and having that sort of access. I'd be lying if I didn't say that was pretty cool to get to do that. When I talk about I do this for the experiences, those are the experiences. But I'll really miss I liked writing a post-game report. I liked, giving my input at least. Not everybody agreed with how I wrote or the way that I analyzed the team. I'm not a guy that searches for a lot of negatives. So sometimes that doesn't sit well with some folks. They want to hear a lot of the negative stuff as well. So I early on for me, these are hockey players, but they're human beings, and that's something that I can't shake. And I kind of try to treat these people the way I would want to be treated as well. And that doesn't jive necessarily with being a no holds barred media guy and that sort of a thing. But that's just kind of how I've gone about my business. I've tried to be respectful and partly I think because of that, I've been able to make some pretty great relationships since doing this, and their relationships I'll treasure forever.
Oh, that's awesome. And you referenced it earlier, Cory, when you said when you write, you basically say what you believe. And I believe in that too. I always say, say what you mean and mean what you say, right? You don't have to sugarcoat anything. And if you're more positive, don't apologize for being more positive. Heck, I built a 10-year shtick on it, although I get called out quite a bit, but I love that about you. And I've heard you speak very glowingly, for instance, your relationship with the McCune family. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that kind of happened early on. Zach was a player that he was the first player that I kind of felt was a guy that, hey, I'm kind of the only guy talking about this guy right now. Like nobody's really saying this guy's going to be anything. And for me, it was a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for, but it made me feel like, okay, this is what I'm seeing is valid because this guy.
It validated your opinion.
Yeah, it validated what I was seeing. To me, at least, I was, hey, this guy's going to be a player. And, I talked to some people, some other media folks, and some of those media folks said, that's probably not the guy you want to hitch your wagon to. I don't know if he's going to be a player. And I was just like, I think he might be. And he's a guy that every game I would just see something new from him. I've said it so many times, he's one of the players there that gets it. And that's a big thing for me. If a player, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you can't play within the systems that the coaching staff requires you to play in, you can't be freelancing. You can to an extent, if you're a highly skilled player and you can make plays that other guys can't, you're going to be able to get away with a few more things. But Zach was just a no nonsense guy from the get go, and an underdog guy, and as a cancer survivor that wasn't supposed to make it past 5 years, I'm all for the underdogs, right?
Amen, brother. Amen. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Zach was that way, and for me it was. I've told this story a couple of times, but Botch kind of planted that seed with me. My very first training camp, that was the first time I met Jason face to face. And I had, on my way up to cover the camp in Whistler, when I was leaving the Sunshine Coast, I posted a photo from the ferry saying, on my way to training camp. And by the time I got to Squamish, I had a message from Zach's mom on Twitter asking me how many days I was going to be at camp for, because Craig was going to be coming and wanted to say hi and would have liked to meet me. And I was only going for one day because, again, I can't afford to put myself up in a hotel in Whistler for a few days, right? So it was there and back one day for me. So I was a little bit bummed that I wasn't going to be able to get to meet him, because as soon as she said that, I thought, man, I could sit down to that guy and talk to him for hours about what it's like to be the parent of an undrafted player who's playing pro hockey, right? Like, that's a story. Those are the kind of stories I've wanted to tell.
Mhm.
So that day I had mentioned to Jason, hey, I got this message from Juliana McEwen this morning. Craig's coming out. Make sure you say hi to him for me tomorrow when you see him, because I wanted to say hi, or he wanted to meet me or whatever. And he's like, wait a minute, that his parents want to meet you? Like, what's going on here? That doesn't happen. And I said, well, I guess they did. His dad wants to meet me and say hi. And he goes, Cory, like, he's your guy. Like, you've been telling us for a year this guy's going to be a hockey player, and you know, he's your guy. You got to foster that relationship. And Ryan Beach was there that day. He was the managing editor of Canucks Army at the time, but he was only there in and out very quickly. He was actually up there with his family. So I mentioned to Ryan that Craig was going to be in town for a few days, and you know, is there any chance he could get me into a preseason game so that I could interview Craig? And kind of gave him my idea, and he goes, you know, that's a great idea. I'll see what I can do. And then, you know, a couple days later, I find out that, you know, Ryan pulled it off. He got me access, and I went into town. I couldn't afford to make my trip over. Like, I don't have a lot of dough, right? So I did all of this through the help of friends, like my buddy Chris Robertson on Twitter. You know, he helped me out. He actually bought me a ticket into the game because I was trying. Or no, that was a that. No, sorry, I'm getting my days confused up.
It's all right.
Chris got me my ticket when I actually went in for Zach's first hockey game. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so I ended up sleeping at Brent Anderson's place on his couch that night. Brent Anderson from Twitter, who, you know, we knew each other a little bit. He'd been to the coast a couple of times for work and watched a couple of Comets games with me. So it was just one of those kind of neat things where everything kind of fell into place. And I got to do that interview with Craig. And, you know, that kicked off what I was hoping to be a lifelong friendship. Unfortunately, you know, Craig had a bit of a stroke here recently, and he's no longer with us.
Yeah, but to have those cherished memories, man, and that's really, really cool. And no, thank you for sharing that, Cory. That's pretty cool. So we got McEwen already as a bona fide Canuck, or basically, I don't consider him a Utica Comet player anymore, because we expect him to be a solid player filling out our bottom six. But one thing we're talking about, if the Canucks return to play, and it's a big if, but we're hopeful, they're going to be allowed to expand their roster, right? They're going to be allowed to have more, maybe bring up another 5 or 6 skaters, a couple goaltenders. And if I count Josh Levo and Michael Furlan, even though they're still recovering, I see about 5 or 6 spots left. And we've heard a lot of names, right? There's about 5 D-men you could bring up. There's about 5 forwards you can bring up. If we're up to you, Cory, and you were the one bringing up 5 guys from the Comets to serve as the, quote, Black Aces, who are your 5 guys?
Well, for me, I think when I look at the Canucks team as a whole, I think I'd be using up a lot of those 5 guys on the back end. I think for me, I'd have Ashton Sautner, I think, is the most NHL ready, ready to play a regular shift. You know, for Travis Green right now, I think he's probably the most NHL ready guy there. So he'd be one of those guys for sure. I think Brogan Rafferty had a great year in Utica. He's a little bit more mature physically. He's 25 now, or he's about to be 25. So a little bit more mature of a player. So I can see him, you know, being a guy that's going to be around the team. I think we all kind of expect him to be on the roster next season, if not out of camp very quickly after that. So I think he's a guy that they'll keep around. I think when I think about Olli Juolevi, I think I'd rather have him, if he's going to be around. I think it's more of a rehabbing thing for him, continuing his making sure he's ready to go for next season. But I think Guillaume Brisebois is a guy that I think should be among those 3 defensemen who would make up part of that 5.
Mm-hmm.
So Sautner, Rafferty, and Brisebois on the back end. Up front, if I'm being realistic, who are the
Yeah.
two players that I think have the best chance to contribute? Um, some people will think I'm nuts saying this, but Tyler Grayovac, I think, is a guy that Travis Green would probably feel comfortable with using. You know, he used him on the penalty kill. He used him a bit on the power play.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Actually
know,
scored a couple goals, right, when he was with us.
yeah, exactly. He's a guy that I think can do some decent things in short, like small sample sizes. So I think he's probably one. And for me, I think it'd be, I think Sven Berchi has shown enough chemistry with guys like Horvat and Besser, and he's, he's played a little bit with Pedersen. He's a guy that I think I think he's a guy that could slot in just about anywhere in the lineup. He could kill some penalties if you needed him to. He could play some power play if you needed him to. He's a really, really creative playmaker, and I think he has a lot to prove. So, that's a guy that I could see that I would have time to put in. Now, all of that said, I'd have a hard time not giving Justin Bailey a look as well. I think when you've got a guy with the kind of size that he has, he's a pretty big guy. He doesn't play an overly physical game, but he doesn't shy away from it either. But his speed is dangerous. I watched him all season backing defensemen right into their goaltenders because what do? He's coming at you 6'4", 212, 215 pounds with a full head of speed. And he can get around you, he's not just fast, he's agile and he's big.
Yeah.
So, that's a guy that I think I would have liked to see him get a little bit more of a leash, a little bit more rope up in Vancouver this year because I like the guy. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, great point about Bailey. It's almost like he was almost too excited to play for Vancouver or something, because I remember those 2 or 3 games he played. He wasn't the best positionally, wasn't the best defensively, was turning pucks over. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to but the Canucks were, I guess, right in the middle of a playoff race too. So it's
and
tough. It's tough.
This is where we have to be realistic and this is always the catch-22 for me, because I don't always preface things by saying, when I talk about who should be up or whatever, I'm talking about it looking through the eyes of this player has to play for Travis Green. Travis Green is the head coach in Vancouver. It doesn't matter what I think of the player. It matters what Travis Green thinks of the player. It matters. It matters what he feels that player's strengths and weaknesses are, and whether or not they're going to fit into his program. And a lot of people, I think, take a lot of what I say as, this is what I would do, and a lot of it I do agree with a lot of what they are doing, and the stuff that I disagree with, I can take a step back and set my opinion aside and look through their lens and say, okay, this is why they're doing this, because they've got a guy that fills this role. They need somebody to do a little bit more of this. So of course, this is the guy that they're going to go with.
Right.
So
Excellent.
I can kind of, it's just one of those things where, as a fan, and I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a hockey fan first and foremost. I mean, that's why I wanted to start writing about hockey. I'm a fan. I never got into doing this, expecting to be put on the radio and asked my opinion. I never got into doing this expecting to have, as many readers as I apparently have had in the last 3 years. I said to the guys last night, I was stunned. After my article for Canucks Army came out, I got a DM from Elliot Friedman saying, hey, you've done great work. And I had no clue the man was reading me. So
that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And when you think about that, and you think about the fact that the way I've gone about my business, that just makes me that much more happy about the way I've done things. It makes me that much more proud about the way I've done things.
And you should be proud, Corey. The fact that you didn't compromise any values, you didn't take any shortcuts, you did it the way you thought you needed to, and you had an impact. You have an impact on those that you reach out to with your content. I think that says a lot. So very well said. And you make such a good point, man, about when you say, well, who should be the Black Aces, you have to think of what the Canucks need and what Travis Green wants. Because otherwise, you'd say Reed Boucher. But no, when you have a Toffoli, a Pedersen, and Miller, I don't think you need Reed Boucher trying to crack your top six, because he's not going to crack your top six up here, right?
Right.
Whereas he might be playing that role in Utica, obviously.
Exactly. And I mean, I have nothing but love for Reed Boucher as well. I mean, that guy, I've really, really enjoyed watching him over the last 3 years. And the last kind of team interaction that I had before I stopped writing was I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of the Utica media with Reed Boucher. And the last thing that we each got 5 minutes to kind of ask our questions. Rather than talking over each other, trying to ask questions, we each would get 5 minutes. And I was the last guy to go. And I think the last thing I said to him was, hey, I just want to let you know, I've been covering you for 3 years now. This is my first chance to actually speak with him. And I said, I've really enjoyed covering you, like watching you play and watching you grow as a player, and hammering one-timers from one knee from the right circle on the power play. I keep doing that. That's awesome to see. And he had a big smile on his face. And for me, it's just a matter of I wasn't 100% sure whether or not I was going to be back writing about the team. That thought process was kind of already creeping into my head there, because I was already finished at Canucks Army by that point.
Right.
And because that was I did that for Canucks Convo for Faber's podcast, that Zoom call. So so I kind of, in the back of my head, I wasn't sure if I'd be back, and honestly, I'm not sure that Reed is going to be back either. He's a restricted free agent, and hasn't had a lot of opportunity with the big club, especially this past season. So I could see him maybe wanting to move on.
Yeah, good points. And the great segue, because I was going to ask you about a few other Comets players, if that's cool with you, Corey.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned, of your D-men, you said Sautner, Brisebois, and Rafferty, and you did a quick, reference to Olli Juolevi. You've been watching him a lot more than all we think is, 5th overall pick. We want to see him. I'm still not calling him a bust, because I know defense would take a little longer to mature, but pretty soon we're going to have to see something from him. Tell us something about Olli Juolevi that maybe you know, because you've been watching all those games, as maybe someone like me who doesn't watch Utica games wouldn't know about him.
You gotta kind of hear the term soft, like a soft European player or whatever. We've heard Jim Benning say he wants hard skill, that kind of a comment. So I'm not saying Olli Juolevi is going to be out there roughing guys up and looking to blow guys up with big hits, but he is not a soft player. For a guy that's had the injury issues that he's had in the last since he turned pro, he is out there sacrificing his body just as much, if not more, than every other defenseman on that team. He's been a workhorse on the penalty kill and just blocking shots like nobody's business out there. And there's times when you kind of cringe. You're like, you got a bad back. You got a bad knee. Don't do that. Get away from there.
You got to bet everything.
That's not his DNA. He's the guy he's like Chris Tanev. He's going to lay down in front of those shots. And that I think that says a lot about his character. I think that that has a lot to do with, Trent Cull played him a lot. I think I've said this before as well, of all the players in the Canucks system, I think Juolevi might be the guy that actually benefits from this COVID thing, from the season shutting down.
Fascinating.
When the AHL shut down, Olli had missed, had just missed a handful of games with hip soreness again. So he's now been able to take that much extra time, rather than being pushed back into the lineup when the Comets had 15 games remaining. And they were in the playoff picture, but they had 15 games. I think 12 of them were against division rivals and against teams that are a handful. So, it was going to be a tough, stretch to get into the playoffs. And I just kind of feel like Olli probably would have been, pushed back into action maybe a little sooner than he was ready. And I think the fact that did not happen maybe is going to bode well for him. This might be his first off season where he's got a healthy body that he can train with. And I think that could, go a long way for him. The biggest issue for him is that, pivoting and pushing off with speed and with power. When a guy beats him, he's kind of beat. He's not able to get back quick enough. He's tried taking alternate lanes to get there more efficiently if he can't get there more quickly. But I think that's something that he's going to need to continue working on. And I think, like I say, having a healthy body to train with, he might actually finally be able to take that extra step.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Hard to block a shot when you're behind the opposing player, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Talk to me about Mikey DiPietro. We know he had a rough, it was kind of unfair the way he was pushed into a game at the end of last season, but from all accounts, he had a pretty good showing this year in Utica.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy that, he was 20 years old. He's just turned 21 this week, I believe. So, a young guy coming into the American Hockey League, playing for a pretty hard-nosed coach in Trent Cull. The Canucks had just signed Zane McIntyre to be their number 3 in their system. He's getting paid a pretty good wage to be their number 1 in Utica. And, by November, Mikey D stole his job. And he didn't want to give it back. I mean, the guy went on a run of games, and he really tidied up his game this year. He wasn't as active as he's been in the past. He was more dialed in, more concentrated. He was tracking pucks a lot better, playing pucks. I think a little bit better than I had seen him playing pucks in the past as well. And I've said this before, but he's got the right attitude to be a goaltender. I played goal. I know what it's like if if a bad goal beats you. I know that can kind of hang on for you for a little, a few shifts at least, where you got a little bit of case of the nerves or whatever. And if you're the kind of goaltender that can, if once that goal's by you, it's by you. You can't do anything about it. Move on. And that's Mikey DiPietro in a nutshell. Every shot is a new shot for him, right? Like he's not dwelling on anything in the past. Everything is about what's happening next, And, he does a really good job of growing his game, taking what the coaches kind of put out for him and putting it into practice. I mean, I had a really, really good interview this year with Robert Esch, president of the Utica Comets, former NHL goaltender. So he's been around the game for a very long time. He knows the goaltending position very well. And, I asked him, after we had done the conversation, my interview with him was about him bringing the Comets back to Utica. And we had a great interview about that. But after that, it was just, he's right around my age as well. So it was just 2 old goalies talking hockey. And I kind of wanted his feedback on some of the players in Utica. I mean, he's the president there, but he has nothing to do with the players in Utica. He doesn't have anything to do with how they're acquired or who's on the team or who plays or who doesn't. He's on the business side of things. And, but I thought it would still be neat to get his input. So the thing that stuck out for me big time was he said Mikey DiPietro is the hardest working player he has ever seen in the game. And for a guy that's been around a long time, who's been around a lot of, think of the players that Robert Esch played with. Guys like Keith Primo, and he played with some pretty high-end, hard-working, hard-nosed guys. And for him to say that, this 20-year-old kid who came in and kicked the door down this year and became a number 1 goaltender in his first year of pro hockey, to say he's the hardest working guy he's ever seen in the game, I think that's a big feather in DiPietro's cap.
Yeah.
I think if you're the kind of player who has an incredible work ethic that he has, he's got a really nice skill set. I think that, those 2 things go really well together to help a guy have a good, solid career. And he doesn't need to be rushed. He's got Markstrom, He's got Demko ahead of him. He can spend some time in the American League and he can hone his game. And he's the guy that'll do that too, right? He's not going to, he was 5 wins, I think, away from setting a new record for the Comets for wins in a season. Demko had 25 wins for the record in 1 year, and I think DiPietro had 21. So
very cool.
5 more wins in the final 15 games. He would have got there. He would have set that record. And when he comes to camp, for next season, or when he shows up for this mini camp for the play-in rounds, he's not going to be sitting there saying, "Hey, I almost set a record down there." He's going to be saying, "What can I do to get better?"
That's
And
awesome.
and he gets it, right. That's another guy that gets it, and he's got a fantastic personality. Um, for a guy that's as young as he is very, very comfortable in front of the camera, talking to reporters. Um,
Good.
he's
Good.
back in the day, we used to see guys like Kessler and Bieksa in little interviews and things where they were practical joking each other, or practical joking Murph while he was trying to interview a player. Di Pietro does a lot of that in Utica. When players are being interviewed, he sticks his goalie stick in their face like he's a media guy and starts asking questions. And he's got a big personality, and he's going to be a really fun one for a lot of years in Vancouver.
And it sounds like he's going to be a fan favorite when he gets up here for sure. And it's really fascinating because we know of all the uncertainty with Jacob Markstrom, and we're set up for a while. But you're right, there's no rush either, depending on what happens with him. I don't think anyone's suggesting DiPietro can fill in next year, but it's nice to know that he's got all those character traits. That's pretty cool. Can I ask you about one more player? Tell us a bit more about Cole Lind. Does he have a chance to make the team next year? And what does he kind of max out as, you think, as a pro?
I think Cole has a chance to see ice time in Vancouver next year. I don't expect that he's going to come in and steal somebody's job out of training camp. If I look at the wingers that are ahead of him in Vancouver, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be pretty crowded on the wings. But anything can happen this offseason, right? If the Canucks are in a bit of a salary cap crunch, maybe Cole Lind doesn't look so bad as a fourth line player to work him in, start him, on the fourth line like they did with Horvat back in the day and work him up, right?
Yep.
Maybe that's something that they have to do out of necessity because he's still on an entry level deal. But at the end of the day, Cole's going to be in the last year of that entry level deal. They're going to need to know what they have in him, and I do see him getting games by sometime in January. He'll probably get a look with the big club. There'll be injuries. There'll be, trade deadline happens and guys get a look. And I think that's what we'll see from Cole. He's a guy that in his first year, he missed a lot of games with injuries. He had a tough time making the adjustment to the pro level from junior. It was a bigger step than he expected. So it took him a little while to get going. And, kind of the second half of the season, we started to see a little bit more of Cole Lind from junior than we were seeing in the first half of the year. I think Cole is at his best when he's very, very engaged in the game. His play between, like, after whistles, if he rides that line where he's not taking a lot of, he was second on the team in penalty minutes this year, so don't get me wrong. He did spend his time in the penalty box, but Cole was very good at riding that line after a whistle. The biggest defenseman on the other team, if there was a scrum in front of the opposition net, Cole's going in there and giving that guy a glove in the chops, right? And he wasn't doing that in the first half of the season. He didn't have that confidence. And this year, that was there right from the get-go. So his confidence was there right from the start of the year this year, which I think played a huge part for him. When you're a confident player, you're able to play your game a little bit more effectively. So his confidence level being high was great. He spent a lot of time this offseason working on his skating, and that showed out there. His first few steps were a lot better than they were, at the start of last year. And he's a guy that he did what the coaches asked of him. He played every game. He was the only Comet to play every game this year. He didn't miss any games with injuries, so he was healthy, which I think also, played a big part in him having a successful season. But he bounced around the lineup. He was a right winger. He was a left winger. He played a little bit in the middle. By the end of the season, he had Zach McEwen's job on the first power play unit, taking all the face-offs. When you've got Carter Camper on the team, who's a veteran of well over 500 professional hockey games, that's a guy that generally would have been in there taking a lot of those face-offs after McEwen was called up. And once Cole got in there, he wasn't pulled out of that spot. He was doing the job effectively. He's a great playmaker. He can score some goals. But I think a lot of his game, I think at the pro level, he's going to need to be I don't want to say like a Rafi Torres type of player because he's not going to be like throwing his body around a whole bunch.
Right.
But he's going to be a bit of a pest. He's going to be
Yep.
that guy that's mucking it up after the whistles. He's going to be a guy that can make plays for his line mates. I see a really nice game from Cole, and this is going to be a big telling year for him. Last year of his entry-level deal. I mean, he's going to need to show that this year wasn't just a one-off, that he can actually take another step.
Right.
But,
and he's got
Go
decent
ahead.
size, Corey. Yeah, I was just saying he's got decent size. I know since he got drafted 2 years ago, both times he's been over, for the summer invitational or summer camp or whatever you call it. He's very noticeable just because he seems more mature than a lot of the other players that he was skating with. So I'm looking forward to seeing him kind of put that together with his hockey, his hockey sense, and just becoming the player that we the Canucks obviously hope that he'll become when they drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if I look at the wingers that are kind of ahead of him on the roster, I think if Cole ends up kind of settling in as a third line winger who can put up at the NHL level maybe 35 points somewhere in there and be an agitator, be a pest, be a guy that can kill penalties, I think that's going to be his next challenge this season from Trent Cole. I think they'll have him doing more penalty killing. It was something that he didn't get a lot of this year, but towards the end of the season, he was starting to get some opportunities there, and I think that's kind of his next logical step. I think they'll probably want him to be able to do that at the NHL level.
Awesome. No, I appreciate the insight into Bailey, to Ulevi, to DiPietro, to Colin. Wind up, Corey, with what I call the six-pack. I don't know why I call it because I don't drink. Maybe it's a six-pack of Pepsi. But basically 6 rapid-fire questions. You can answer them as briefly or as long as you want. 3 Canucks-related, 3 personal. You ready to go?
Yep, fire away.
All right, number 1. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Man, I've always been a bit of an introvert, but this job has kind of forced me into being a little bit more of an extrovert. My first, this isn't very rapid, is it? My first radio thing that I ever did, I sweat right through my clothes, and it was a taped radio thing that I did with JD Burke and John Abbott for TSN back in the day. So, I'm a little bit more of an extrovert than I used to be.
Good. Well, I think you've been fine today on camera. You've been awesome. Number 2, who's going to be more important to the Vancouver Canucks going forward? Use whatever definition of important you want to. Elias Pettersson or Quinn Hughes?
Oh, wow. Man, that's hard because there's so many things about both players that kind of tip the scales in their favor. I mean, you've got a lead by example guy like Elias Pettersson who has all the skill in the world, and he's out there working on his game at every opportunity, trying to be better. But behind him, you've got a Bo Horvat, you've got an Adam Gaudette. There's not a lot more back there, but there's a little bit there. Quinn Hughes on defense. We don't have a lot of guys in the Vancouver system that can kind of do what he does. He's going to be a pretty important piece going forward. There are not a lot of guys that skate the way he does that can do the things that he can do out there. So, wow, that's a hard question. I'm going to go with Quinn.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer. No, that's actually most of the people that I've asked so far, Corey, they say similar things, but they go with Quinn actually because we've never had a guy like him before. All right, number 3, Netflix or Disney Plus?
I don't have Disney Plus, so I'm going to go Netflix.
What are you watching on Netflix? Anything exciting?
Oh, geez. What am I watching on Netflix now? I've been watching a little bit more of Amazon Prime lately. They've got a lot of old Led Zeppelin content on there that I've been plowing through. So
awesome. Okay, we'll go with that. That's awesome. Number 4, if you could go to dinner with one of these 3 guys and they're paying, so you don't have to pay, Francesco Aquilini, Jim Benning, or Travis Green, who are you going to dinner with, Corey?
Travis Green.
Yeah.
Travis Green. I think I'd have a lot of fun talking with Travis. I've had the opportunity to speak with him. I've had the opportunity to speak with Jim Benning. I haven't spoken with Francesco Aquilini. I was about 6 feet away from him one time. That was about as close as that was. But no, I think I'd love to pick Travis Green's brain a little bit and find out when he's talking about players he can win with. I want a definition, lay it out for me. What does that to you, what does that mean, Travis? Well, what does that player, what qualities does he have to have?
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Number 5, you won't offend me either way because I'm half and half. Japanese food or Chinese food?
I don't think I've ever had Japanese food, and so
Oh,
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go Chinese. I don't mind Chinese food at all. I
well,
can't eat
Corey.
a lot of it these days, but I don't mind it.
All right, next time you're over on the mainland, you look me up and I'll take you out to some Japanese food. How's that sound?
Nice, sounds good.
And then we'll go back and record that parody song that we've been talking about. And number 6, let's go with this one. Quinn Hughes or Kale McCarr, who wins the Calder Trophy?
Quinn Hughes, yeah, it's got to
Yeah.
be Quinn. It's got to be Quinn. I mean, I think he was. I think he's it. I think he was more valuable to his team than McCarr was to his. I think. I mean, he had a better season. I think Quinn Hughes deserves the honor, and it'd be pretty nice to see the Canucks, hammer out a couple in a row like that.
No, it'd be amazing. Amazing. Yeah. One finalist and 2 winners. That's pretty much unprecedented. Corey, this has been wonderful. It's funny. I'm going to do some funky segue about the bright light shining in and how you're a ray of sunshine to everyone you encounter. But honestly, I know we only got to see each other in person 1 or 2 times, but I appreciate all the exchanges. If on the internet, people want to follow you and stay in touch with you and get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm on Twitter at Cory Hergott on there. I'm pretty easy to find on there, and my DMs are open. And I'm still going to be talking a lot of Comets hockey. I've been asked what I'm going to be doing Friday and Saturday nights now, and I mean, I've said I'll probably be listening to Joe Roberts on K-Rock calling the Comets games. So I'll still be talking Comets. I'll still be keeping up on what's going on with the team. I just won't be dedicating as much time to it or committing as much time to it as I have in the past. So, yeah, my DMs are open. If anybody has, in the spirit of Jason Bochford, if anybody thinks that I can help them in any way to, advance what they want to do, if they want to get into writing or, podcasting or whatever, I'm happy to do my part and help out where I can.
Oh, that's awesome, Corey. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time. I appreciate all you've done for Canucks fans and Comets fans. But more importantly, I appreciate the man that you are, good man, good family man, and just really transparent. And I think you've a man of integrity, and you've shown all that today. So thank you. And I know we're going to stay in touch. And I know that a lot of people appreciate not only what you've done, but more importantly, who you are. So thanks again, Corey. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Very much appreciated, Clay. It's been a pleasure to come on your show, and it was kind of neat to do something in this format. It's been this is the first for me, so you got to be my first on that one, Clay.
Hey, I always be someone's first. That didn't sound right. Okay, Corey, thanks a lot, man. Well, take care and God bless you and your family.
Thanks, Clay, and to you.
Thanks a lot. I trust that you enjoyed that chat with Cory Hergott. I love the guy. He's so articulate, he's so knowledgeable, but more importantly, has such great integrity and just an overall good guy. And I'm happy, as much as hard to step away from doing something you love, I'm happy that he's going to have more time for his family, for his hobbies, and taking care of himself. And I applaud him to make that, what I'm sure was a very difficult decision. So as usual with these Zoom chats, I don't really have a question of the day. Rather, what stood out to you from what Cory had to say about his personal life, about the Utica Comets organization, or about the players themselves? I would love to know your reaction to that chat I just had with Cory. Leave a comment below. I'd love to read, react, and reply. As always, subscribe if you like to, like this video if you'd like to. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go, and go Comets go.